The so-called attempt to justify the war by the neocon Catholics, Michael Novak, was sent over to the Vatican to argue the case on the basis of moral theology, the theology of the Church.
Isn't Robert Novak doing the same thing?
Well, Robert Novak has been implicated in outing Valerie Plame, Ambassador Joe Wilson's wife. There's a book on this entitled Bush's Brain that goes into detail about it.
We're talking about Karl Rove and
That's right.
Libby, and
yeah,
Libby
exactly.
is going to jail. Or, do you think Bush is going to pull him out at the last minute?
It's hard to say. He certainly can do it by a presidential pardon. If he's on his way out within the last year or a few months of his administration, why not?
There was strong reaction this morning to President Bush's decision to commute Libby's 30-month sentence in the CIA leak investigation. The leak ended the career of CIA operative Valerie Plame Wilson. Her husband, former U.S. Ambassador Joe Wilson, joins us now. Joe, what's your reaction to the president's decision yesterday?
Well, I'm not surprised. I think this administration has demonstrated time and time again it is corrupt from the top to the bottom. I think the president has short-circuited the rule of law and the system of justice that has undergirded this country in the entire history of the republic.
The same folks that are bombing innocent people in Iraq were the ones who attacked us in America on September the 11th.
The twists and turns of Planegate, your precise and intricate lies that sent us into this bottomless pit of Iraq, your lies upon the lies to discredit Joe Wilson, your lies upon the lies upon the lies to throw the sand at the referee, of Prosecutor Fitzgerald's analogy. These are complex and often painful to follow, and too much perhaps for the average citizen. But when other citizens render a verdict against your man, Mr. Bush, and then you spit in the faces of those jurors and that judge and the judges who are yet to hear the appeal, the average citizen understands that, sir. It is the fixed ball game and the rigged casino and the prearranged lottery all rolled into one, and it stinks. And they know it.
From the very time of the indictment, something that you all forget to put up there every time you report this, Mr. Libby repeatedly lied and threw sand in the umpire's eyes. That is why. Now, Libby's whiners can say anything they want, but the facts as they were brought out in the court were the covert identity of a CIA officer was betrayed by Mr. Libby, Mr. Rove, Mr. Armitage, quite possibly at the direction of the Vice President. Americans know the difference between right and wrong. Americans know when the national security of this country has been betrayed, even if the President of the United States and the Vice President and Mr. Libby's supporters do not.
Did Mr. Bush just cement his claim to being the worst president in our history?
I think during the last year of Bush's administration, we may really see things for what they are in the kinds of decisions and legislation he approves.
I accuse you of handing part of this republic over to a vice president who is without conscience and letting him run roughshod over it. And I accuse you now, Mr. Bush, of giving, through that vice president, carte blanche to Mr. Libby to help defame Ambassador Joseph Wilson by any means necessary, to lie to grand juries and special counsel and before a court in order to protect the mechanisms and the particulars of that defamation, with your guarantee that Libby would never see prison. And in so doing, as Ambassador Wilson himself phrased it here last night, of you becoming an accessory to the obstruction of justice.
So the president could, in the waning hours of his administration, just pardon Scooter Libby, even though Scooter Libby hadn't applied for a pardon?
Absolutely, and even though he doesn't qualify under Justice Department regulations, Mark Rich didn't qualify for a pardon under Justice Department regulations, and Bill Clinton gave him a pardon anyway. Those are only for the little people, the Justice Department regulations. For ordinary people, if you have enough juice, if you have enough friends in high places, you can go around the system, and that's what Scooter Libby did.
Well, Harry S. Truman pardoned about 60 Capone and Pendergast mobsters his first year in office. The Pendergast mob was in bed with old whorehouse Harry, and yes, he did have a whorehouse. His haberdashery was a front for the whorehouse. They'd go through the store and up the stairs.
It's interesting to note that Harry S. Truman was also a 32nd degree Freemason. After he left office as president, he was elevated to the rank of 33rd degree Freemason. And he's pointed out that this was the proudest degree conferred upon him. He valued his rank as a 33rd degree Freemason more than he did holding the office of President of the United States.
Is Freemasonry compatible with the Catholic Church?
Absolutely not. It never has been. Since the early 1700s, the popes officially condemned Freemasonry. There's just been almost 3 centuries now of encyclical letters, papal bulls condemning Catholic membership in the Masonic Lodge. If they joined, they were automatically excommunicated.
There's a book called Morals and Dogma by General Albert Pike, and Albert Pike said, yes, Lucifer is God, and those initiates of the higher order should follow the Luciferian doctrine. Why do we see so many Catholics and Protestants, like Pat Robertson, putting the Masonic claw over his heart?
Right, the lion's paw.
The lion's paw.
That was on the cover of a magazine.
On the cover of Time magazine.
Right.
Why do you see that?
I would have to think he would have better than average knowledge about what he's involved in. Part of the tactics of Freemasonry is to keep its membership in the dark about what its real purposes and intents really are. But there's more of an in-crowd among Freemasons that have a better understanding of what's really happening. And when you see something like that, I have to think that Robertson has a good working knowledge of it and yet is participating.
Well, I asked him why he did this at the Coronado Hotel in San Diego, and I talked privately to him for about 45 minutes at the studio that I had been in charge of. He said, well, they just told me to put my hand somewhere, and I just happened to put up my hand over the heart like that.
By the way,
lion's claw from Masonic Order.
We mentioned Raymond Arroyo earlier.
Yes.
He was brought into EWTN, Mother Angelica's television network, under the mentoring or recommendation of Robert Novak. So Ray comes on board with this previous background and now is the weekly news anchor every Friday for The World Over Live.
There's a picture, Brokeback Mountain. We see various pedophile priests being exposed. We see the Ted Haggards, the Mark Foleys. We see all of this homosexual permissiveness, both in government and in the churches. What's going on?
As far as I can see, Anthony, it's a rampant epidemic in society today, primarily spearheaded through the auspices of the ADL. The agenda is to make it more acceptable and to basically rearrange the moral structure of thought to pretty much determine that it's all right, that there's nothing wrong with it.
A nationwide leader of evangelical Christians, the Reverend Ted Haggard, has resigned over allegations of gay sex. But Haggard says he expects his name to be cleared. He has stepped down as head of the National Association of Evangelicals, as well as leader of his New Life Church. He's been a strong opponent of same-sex marriage. His accuser claims Haggard paid him for sex, and they met almost monthly for 3 years.
I think I had to do the moral thing in my mind, and that is expose someone who is preaching one thing but doing the opposite.
I've never had a gay relationship with anybody, and I'm steady with my wife. I'm faithful to my wife. We are not hesitant at all with an independent group asking the questions of, what did you say his name was? Mike. And hearing him, and then investigating it, and then deciding what should be done with me.
You used meth?
No, I have not. I did call him. I did call him.
And what did you call him about?
I called him to buy some meth, but I threw it away.
And who were you buying the meth for?
No, I was buying it for me, but I never used it.
Have you ever used meth before?
No, I have not.
So.
And I did not ever use it with him.
And did you ever have sex with him?
No, I did not.
And at what point did you decide to throw away the meth?
Right after. I never kept it very long because it was wrong. I was tempted, I bought it, but I never used it.
And how did you know that he would sell it to you?
He told me about it. I went there for a massage.
How did you find him to get a massage from him?
A referral.